Vince Gill once stood as country music royalty, a golden voice with 21 number-one hits and 22 Grammys to his name. He seemed to have it all. But in 2000, everything changed. His decision to marry Christian pop icon Amy Grant, after both had divorced their spouses, sparked an uproar. The backlash was swift and brutal. Faith-based communities labeled their union adulterous. Radio stations banned their music. Protesters held signs at his concerts. And in the years since, as health issues quietly creep in at age 67, Vince has watched much of what he built begin to slip away. Born on April 12, 1957 in Norman, Oklahoma, Vince was raised in a home that straddled law and music. His father, a federal judge, was also a skilled musician who could effortlessly play the banjo, guitar, and harmonica. After long courtroom sessions, Judge Gill would come home and join his wife Jiren in late-night jam sessions, their music echoing through the house. Young Vince would lie in bed listening to the sound of those harmonies drifting down the hallway. Music became more than background noise, it was the foundation of his soul. But life wasn't simple. Vince was born with crossed eyes, which led to 2 painful surgeries. Even after the procedures, one eye continued to wander when he was tired or emotional. He wore glasses not just to see better but to hide what made him feel broken. Kids teased him cruelly. He began isolating himself, turning inward. The guitar became his only escape, his way to speak when he didn't have the words. When Vince was 10, tragedy reshaped his world. His half-brother Bob was in a devastating car crash on a rainy Oklahoma highway. The injuries left Bob with such severe brain damage that he couldn't remember names, requiring round-the-clock care for the next 25 years. Vince watched as his parents' marriage strained under the weight of grief and obligation. Bob eventually died in 1993 from a heart attack, but the pain never left Vince. That sorrow poured into his music, the kind of songs that make people cry alone in their cars. 5 years old, Vince had already shown signs of something extraordinary. During a visit to his grandmother's house, he picked up her old acoustic guitar and, without a lesson, managed to play Old Shep. In just half an hour, he'd figured out the chords and was singing along. His grandmother immediately called his parents, insisting they'd just witnessed something rare. By the time he turned 10, the family made a significant sacrifice, spending nearly $800 to buy him a Gibson ES335 electric guitar, equal to over $6,000 today. It wasn't just a birthday present. It was a promise. Vince spent 6 to 8 hours a day practicing in the basement. His friends remember hearing those emotional, aching melodies echoing through the walls. His music teacher would later say Vince had a depth in his playing far beyond his years. He didn't talk about his pain. He turned it into melody. In high school, he formed a bluegrass band called Mountain Smoke. In 1976, something surreal happened. They opened for Kiss. Yes, the face-painted, fire-breathing rock band. The crowd didn't know what to make of the kids playing banjos and fiddles. They booed, threw cups, even shoes. Vince, humiliated, flipped the crowd off, mooned them, and stormed off stage. It was messy. But he didn't quit. By 1977, Vince had joined Boone Creek alongside Ricky Skaggs. They helped bring a new energy to bluegrass, blending traditional sounds with a modern edge. The band's only album is now considered a lost classic. That same year, he moved to Los Angeles and joined Sundance, a band led by fiddle legend Byron Berlin. Suddenly, Vince was performing at LA's Palomino Club, rubbing shoulders with Emmylou Harris and Linda Ronstadt, a massive leap from the humiliation of the Kiss crowd. In 1978, Pure Prairie League offered him a spot after jamming together in LA. He declined a similar offer from them 2 years earlier, still loyal to bluegrass. This time, he said yes. He became the frontman, playing guitar, mandolin, fiddle, anything with strings. Their 1980 album, Firin' Up, featured their biggest hit, Let Me Love You Tonight, with Vince on lead vocals. The song hit number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 and proved he could cross genres with ease. But it didn't last. The band's label collapsed in 1981, and by 1982, Vince was out. Around this time, he married Janice Oliver, a country singer from the duo Sweethearts of the Rodeo. Their daughter, Jennifer, was born in 1982. Vince felt like he was on the verge of a solo breakthrough, so he turned down an offer from Rodney Crowell to join his band. But his solo momentum faltered. By the end of 1982, gigs dried up and doubt crept in. In early 1983, he swallowed his pride and called Crowell back. He joined the Cherry Bombs, a band stacked with future legends, and began learning the unglamorous side of the business: 200 shows a year, endless travel, and relentless work. Later that year, Vince and his young family moved to Nashville. Money was tight. The dream was distant. He picked up session work, including playing for Rosanne Cash on tour. That tour became a masterclass. Vince balanced fatherhood with night gigs, building resilience. Meanwhile, Tony Brown, now a rising executive, hadn't forgotten about him. Brown pushed hard at RCA to get Vince signed. In 1984, it happened. His EP Turn Me Loose earned modest success. That year, he was named the Academy of Country Music's top new male vocalist. But chart-topping fame still felt far away. Between 1984 and 1988, none of his singles cracked the top 10. He kept recording, kept improving. And just when it looked like the industry was ready to move on, Tony Brown, now at MCA, made one final push. He got Vince a fresh contract, a fresh team, and a fresh sound. And in 1989, When I Call Your Name hit the airwaves, everything changed. The album blended country, pop, and bluegrass. It was deeply emotional, yet radio-ready. Title track climbed to number 2. It won a Grammy. The album went platinum. Vince Gill had finally arrived. Over the next few years, he delivered hit after hit: I Still Believe in You, Don't Let Our Love Start Slipping Away, One More Last Chance. He went from respected musician to country icon. But by 1998, another chapter was closing. His 17-year marriage to Janice ended, and the album The Key, full of heartbreak, reflected that. In 2000, he married Amy Grant, igniting a firestorm. Religious circles condemned it. Radio stations blacklisted their music. But Vince stood by his decision. They built a blended family and weathered the storm together. Now, years later, Vince performs less often. Health issues have slowed him down. Crowds are smaller. The spotlight's softer. But if you ask him about regrets, he doesn't mention the backlash, the critics, or the pressure. He remembers his brother, his parents, the music drifting down the hallway of his childhood home. 'Cause for Vince Gill, it was never about fame. It was always about the music and the healing it brings.